Hey, everybody. Welcome back to CAF's Heroes of Sport. My name is Bob Abbott, co-founder of the Challenged Athletes Foundation. Every week, we get to meet another one of our amazing challenged athletes. A wheelchair basketball star, Munya Mahiya, joins us. Munya, how are you?
I'm good, Bob. Nice to meet you today. How are you doing?
I love the hair. I
Thank
love
you.
what's going on there. That's awesome.
Hey, trying to keep it fresh during this isolation period, just trying to mix it up a little bit because, it gets boring looking at the same face every day. Maybe the hair will help out.
So your background is fascinating. So your mother
Yep,
passed away when you were 5 years old, when you were
that is
growing up in
correct.
Zimbabwe?
Yeah, that's correct.
How hard was that for you to deal with losing your mom so young?
For the longest time, I didn't really think about it because I had amazing sisters that took on the role of being a mother for me. And my dad was sort of in the background because he married pretty quickly after that. But I had my sisters and my brother to look out for me. And yeah, so as far as like not having missing that bond with my mother, it only resurfaced resurfaced later on in life when I was a little bit older and started thinking about all the things that I could have done with my mother. But as a young person, I had a great support network through my sisters and my brother, and my dad was there from time to time, and they were really helpful.
I mean, it's for mom to pass away and dad basically to remarry and move on. As a youngster, you could feel a little bit of abandonment. So your sisters were really important.
Yeah, they're still important today. I speak to them on a weekly basis. It's really challenging, and I fear for them during this COVID situation. But I talk to them every week or so, and we just touch base. They're doing really well right now. My brother is doing okay with his own stuff. Unfortunately, my dad passed away a year and a half ago,
Mhm.
but we were able to patch up a lot of things that were there. So yeah, I miss my mom, but my family. It's pretty common for a lot of families, especially in Zimbabwe, for a dad to move on pretty quickly or remarry. So as far as that, it was just the norm that it wasn't there. But as far as the support network that I needed, I had it.
So when were you diagnosed with cancer?
So that was in 2009. So my injury was around 2008. There was like some political skirmish that happened back home, and through that I didn't get a diagnosis for a full year. So the whole of 2008, which was a bad financial year for a lot of people, and in
Yes.
Zimbabwe it was even worse. So hospitals were not working at a full capacity, and I stayed in the hospital for on and off for about a year until May 2009. That's when I got my diagnosis.
And how long till you had your amputation?
Initially they had given me some time to go home and think about it because I was still in the hospital at the time. So I asked her to get some time off and go and think about what was happening because by that time I was only 15 and I had been sick of such living in the hospital for a whole year on and off. So they told me that I could have a month, but because of the people that were financing my surgery, it was an organization called Counseling and Services Unit that
Hmm.
was helping with some individuals that are affected by some of the political violence that happened back home. They were fortunate enough to sponsor my surgery. So within a couple of days, they needed me back in the hospital because of their funding situation. So I would say I was given. I left the hospital on a Thursday, and then the next Monday I was back in for my amputation. So about 5 days, I think.
And years ago, we did a film on a young man from Ghana named Emmanuel Fosu. And one of the things I learned in Africa, when you have a disability, people look at you differently. Like it was almost like there's a curse on the family. Did you feel that after you had your amputation?
A little bit. So for me, since it was just an amputation and it wasn't something that happened from birth,
Hmm.
for a lot of people they sort of associate, you know, birth defects or birth uh, disabilities with some type of witchcraft or some bad omen in the families. But since for me it happened later on in life, yes, there were people that suspected that something was terribly going wrong with my family, or you know, they were using me for some bad juju or something. But I didn't really think about it that much because I had somebody else in my community that had gone through, acquiring a disability later on in life. It was my best friend's brother. So he had a tumor on his spine, and when he had surgery around the same age that I was, they nicked his spinal cord, and he became paralyzed. Unfortunately, he passed away because of bad healthcare over there in Zimbabwe. But his examples just taught me that it's okay. I don't have to think about what the rest of society is doing. All I have to do is focus on getting back to school, getting my education, and getting that done. But even when I was trying to do that, to showcase that I can still do a lot of the things that I could do before I got the disability, there were still people that would come in and make snide remarks. And one of them was actually someone that I respected very much, that came and asked my sister about, like, where did this one-legged crib go? And when she responded that he went to school, she essentially asked, like, isn't that a waste of money to send such a person to school? So there were those people that were there to say those things, but I really didn't pay attention to that because my focus was on, okay, I have a disability now. Zimbabwe is heavily labor intensive, has a big labor intensive workplace. All I
Mhm.
have to do is, I can't do that anymore. I have to use my brain and my wit. So I have to go back to school, get good grades, decent grades enough to go to A level and then college. And fortunately enough, I was able to, go back to school, did exactly as I wanted. And I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to come out to the US.
And meanwhile, you became captain of the under-23 Zimbabwe wheelchair basketball team. When did you find wheelchair basketball, and how important was that?
So it was fairly soon after the amputations, and I went through chemotherapies. So I was actually coming from a chemotherapy session, and I met my mentor then, Peter Mawindo. He was walking towards me, and at that time I was still not really comfortable meeting with other people with disabilities. But he approached me and he asked me, "Have you heard of wheelchair basketball before?" And I hadn't heard about it. Um, and he introduced me to the sport. He gave me $1 because when he introduced me to the idea of playing wheelchair sports, I was not going to go and participate in wheelchair sports because I wanted to go and run, because I was inspired by Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner in South Africa. He was the only famous athlete with a disability that I knew at that time. So as an amputee, I always thought I was going to do that. But when Peter Mawindo gave me $1 to take the bus to his wheelchair basketball team, it's called Richwood, I took it, and as a promise, I didn't want to let him down because he gave me money to go and check it out. So when he called me a couple of months later, I took it and I visited the camp. Uh, it was great. The chairs were not the ones that we have over here, the current models. They were the ones they used in the 80s, the ones without the anti-tips. But I enjoyed it. I couldn't shoot to save my life, but I enjoyed. Yeah, I enjoyed the speed of it and the banging and the thrashing of the chairs. So I told myself I could do it, and then within 2 years or so, I was not the best, but I was decent enough, and I was outspoken enough to get an opportunity to be invited to go for the under 23 World Cup qualifiers in South Africa with the under 23 Zimbabwe team. So we traveled for that, and it wasn't the best tournament for us, but it was a great learning opportunity for myself. As a team, we did okay. We scored a couple of baskets, but we still needed a lot of improvement and a lot of work to get to the standards that other countries were at. And at the tournament, it was South Africa, and
Mhm.
Nigeria and Zimbabwe. So 3 countries came out for the tournament, and only one country could qualify for Turkey under 23 World Cup. So South Africa qualified. We learned a lot from where they were at in terms of development, in terms of athletic development and programs. So that's something that I've always looked up to and admired about what's happening on the African continent in terms of grassroots development of wheelchair basketball.
And what brought you to the US? Was it to go to school?
Yes. So I was fortunate enough to get a full ride through the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship program to come and study political science, because that was a passion back then. So I went to the University of California at Berkeley, graduated in 2018, and then I just stayed out here to learn more about disability and independent living movements.
And also then you start playing for the Golden State Road Warriors?
Yes, in my third year of college, I was fortunate enough to get called out for, tryout, essentially for tryouts. I've been improving since I got to the US, because the first time I played organized wheelchair basketball was when I joined the Bay Area Outreach and Recreational Program, BORP,
Yep.
through the adult wheelchair basketball program led by Johnny Newman back then. So when he introduced me to basketball, and then I eventually applied for my basketball chair in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, and started playing with my own wheelchair in 2016. I started gaining new skills and, learning more about basketball and getting an appreciation of the sport from the scholarly approach of the sport, and then the athletic side of it as well. So Golden State called me out and for a tryout, and I appreciated the coach for calling me out for the tryouts, and I went out, tried out, and I've been a team member ever since.
That is so cool. And now I love is how everything come full circle. You're president of the Wheelchair Basketball Association of Zimbabwe.
Yes, that is correct. That's correct. So last in October, they sent out a notification to athletes and representatives that there was going to be people could nominate somebody that they would want to run the organization and reform the organization. So looking at where I'm at as an athlete and someone that wants to give back, one of the things that I wanted to do when I came to the US was be a sponge, just get myself into understanding all the resources available and all the opportunities and everything that has to do with adaptive sports. And I've been doing that through my work with the Center for Independent Living. And I nominated myself for the opportunity to just represent and lead the organization to a new way of doing and operating wheelchair basketball in Zimbabwe, because we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. We owe IWBF South Africa about $14,000 for some past tournaments, and it's new management. So we're constantly learning new ways about communications. It's challenging to lead an organization from all the way across, from 14,000 miles away, and we have to do it via WhatsApp and sometimes emails. But it's been a challenge that I'm enjoying right now, because so far we have been trying to reform and create structures within the organizations, create robust structures, and create good athletic development programs for the athletes, and also recognizing that we don't really have like a grassroots development program for athletes and youngsters with disabilities to start out young. So we're looking at opportunities to get maybe secondhand wheelchairs here and there, get resources for individuals to start participating, so that eventually after 2020 or Tokyo Paralympics, we're looking forward to the future where we can have a decent team eventually start coming out of Zimbabwe to go and participate in qualifiers, and hopefully eventually, maybe 10, 15 years from now, we have a quality team.
I love it. When did you connect with Challenge Athletes Foundation?
That would be in 2015 when I applied for my first grant, for a wheelchair
Very
grant.
cool.
Hmm.
And for people who don't quite understand, getting a chair that actually fits you, how important is that for a wheelchair basketball player?
Oh, it's that's the number one thing that you need, because before I got my first chair, I was using a chair that was loaned to me on a um, we had trainings every Thursday, so I could only use the wheelchair that Thursday and leave it for. I could only use it for about 3 hours. But having my own chair that I could practice in every day, that I could take to the gym, something that fit me, something that was tailor made for me. You know, it's a mixture of pride and joy having this thing that you own that you take care of. Uh, like for a lot of people, they talk about being able to take care of your shoes, cleaning them. But for a wheelchair, it's a unique product that is essentially your baby that helps you through a lot of these development opportunities. So to be honest, I don't think I could have been on the Golden State wheelchair basketball team if I didn't have my own equipment, because having my own equipment allowed me to travel with the team, to go out and do more, go and participate in their practices. Because if I didn't have the wheelchair, I would have to borrow the one from Borp, which was not typically loaned out to me on a weekly basis. It was only for that one night. So now, being able to go to practice with Golden State wheelchair basketball team every Wednesday and Saturday actually allowed me to develop more as an athlete. So yes, I would say having your own wheelchair that is tailor made for you is the number one thing that you need to be able to be a wheelchair basketball athlete.
How important has sport been in your life in just helping you recover from losing your leg at such a young age?
It's it's been amazing. I can't lie to you. I have amazing friends. I have amazing mentors. I'm now mentoring other people through. It's because of sport that I'm actually here. Because of that confidence that has been instilled in me. Because I know I'm able to, play against top quality athletes and sometimes not beat them, but play at the same level as them. It has instilled so much confidence that I can actually translate to my work on a daily basis. I'm able to lead because on a basketball team, sometimes I have to lead depending on who's on the court. So sport has given me a lot of opportunities throughout life. I've traveled with my teams to different places, and I've met many amazing people, and I've actually been able to look at what those areas and those places have been doing, and learn about different cultures, learn about different peoples, and just learn as much as I can. That's the most important thing that has come out of sport for me.
Obviously, you're a heck of a leader. I love the fact that even though you're over here, that you are the president of wheelchair basketball in Zimbabwe. That shows that there's a lot of people who believe in your leadership ability.
Yeah, I hope it translates, and I hope we get a lot of work done.
I'm sure you will. Hey, Munya, thank you so much for taking so much time and chatting with us. I loved hearing your backstory, and your confidence and your just love of life comes through every time we have a conversation. You can tell how
Yeah.
excited you are about every single day. Thanks for
No,
being
thank
with
you.
us.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate this.
Munya Mahiya has been our guest again. This is CAF's Heroes of Sport. Thank everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.